Thank you so much for taking your time to come through this morning for this very important conference. As I said, my name is Fungai and I'll be your MC for the day. So personally, I am a journalist, a multimedia journalist, and I don't know why they asked me to be the MC today. I feel like at work they like to do jokes and pick me to do these things. That on Monday they can laugh at me, but I'm very much honored to be here and very honored to be in your presence as well. So as you know, this project is by the Center for Innovation and Technology known as CITE, as well as the Interlink Academy that aims to empower people in this region, that is Matabeleland, with essential media literacy skills. So without much further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Zenzele.
Salvonan. Good morning, everyone, and we would like to thank you for taking your time to be here. I know it's quite cold and the people had other plans, but you decided to be with us today, and we consider this program and event quite important, and we are really honored to be with you. So that's the first thing that we want to do. Apologies for we delayed to start, mainly because the guys here did not open the venue on time. So so I hope we are now ready to start, but I also want to acknowledge the presence of our CITE board member, Miss Wongi Ngwenya. She's over there. Lobabu, is that Spuma? Oh, I saw I'm Nigi. So we want to recognize the presence of board member, and I know she's very busy. But we feel honored that she had her time to take her time to be here. So this is one of our big projects that we are doing, the media and information literacy in Matabeleland, because it is going to be happening over the next 5 years. And what excites us the most is the partnership that we have with Interlink Academy, which is a German-based organization, and also the fact that we are working with a global partner that makes us quite fortunate to get the capacities that they have. But also, I think it is one of a kind in Zimbabwe, where we are actually training communities on information literacy to be able to tell the difference between fake news and real news. These days, because there's a lot that is happening, there's an information overload. Half the time, Abantu, if they get something on Facebook, on YouTube, on WhatsApp, they forward. Some of these things are not true. Some of them never happened, but you get a lot of stories on WhatsApp. And WhatsApp has become the main source of many people. So half the time, always, we keep most of our time telling people that this did not happen. It didn't happen this way. So now a group and you're in a WhatsApp group and people, start spreading things that are not true. Naturally, it's become so difficult for you to just ignore and pretend like it didn't happen. And because of that, we realize that probably we need a program of some sort where people can actually work in communities. So in the next 5 years, we're going to set about 18 hubs in the provinces of Bulawayo, Matabeleland, and Matabeleland North. So we're going to be having 6 hubs per province. And these banners actually show you areas where we are going to be having these hubs. And the aim of these hubs is to work with communities, to train people and give them capacities, not only in media literacy, but also digital security, because with technology also has come a lot of, ongama-scam nje ukuthi abantu baposta izimali or baqhatshwa and all those kind of things. A lot of people have lost their monies bedinga umsebenzi wokuba ngunurse or kuyasebenza ko-Chicken Inn and all those kind of things. So the program is also trying to help people, equip them so that they can not fall victim to some of these things. So we're really excited to be with you today. We hope that is going to be a productive day, and at the end of the day we'll find ways of engaging. And of course, the main takeaway, we also, the speakers that are going to give us different speeches, and we also shortly will be joined by Dan Gilmore. He will be talking from America, and for those who are media students, Dan Gilmore is one of the gurus of social media. He has written a lot of books about social media, and for a while he has been talking on social media. So if you've been doing journalism, I'm sure you've interacted with texts or books that have been written by Dan Gilmore, and we are lucky today to have him speak at this conference. And of course, we have our local colleagues as well that are very much experienced. So we also looking forward to our local speakers because they will give us the local context. I think I have said enough for now. So I'll give back to Fungai.
Thank you so much. I'm actually surprised that he kept it nice and short, because usually we have speeches for more than 30 minutes, and of course we're always learning. But thank you once again to those opening remarks from Mr. Ndebele, and we are, like he said, expecting a speech from Dan Gilmore, as well as a representative from the German embassy is going to be coming through. His name is Mr. Christian. And then as well, before we get to Clayton, I was just curious as I was, Googling this event. I hope you're all Googling as well, and you just didn't arrive here. Does anyone know when the Global Media Week for Information and Literacy is? There's a special prize for you. Anyone know? Ooh, you can Google if you want. All right, there is a special prize. So if you do get time, please do feel free to Google, and then I'll give you that special prize as we go on with today's events. Nonetheless, I'd like to invite Clayton to come forward and to introduce to us the hubs. Clayton, please give him a round of applause. Thank you.
My name is Clayton Moyo, and I am one of the training coordinators for the program. And my brief today is to give you, or to introduce to you, our hubs, the hubs that we work with in Matabeleland South and Bulawayo. So we started off with Bulawayo, and we have 6 hubs in Bulawayo. Then we moved on to Matabeleland South, and now we have brought in Matabeleland North on board. But let's start with Bulawayo first. In Bulawayo, so I'll call out the hubs, and then I would like the trainers for the hubs to stand up so that I can introduce them. So we have Cowdray Park, the trainers for Cowdray Park. Right. Guhlenyati and Modi Tarara. They are training, they are helping us with the training sessions in Cowdray Park. They've had several trainings, quite a lot actually in Cowdray Park there. They are the leaders of a city within a city, right? That's what they say Cowdray Park is. Thank you. Right, we have Mkanwini. Here we have Langelihle Kwebu and Pride Maibongwe Ndlovu. They are from Mkanwini, so they handle Mkanwini training sessions. Right, thank you. We have Pumula. Pumula, there is, look, sorry. All right, so I'll just introduce the Pumula hub, and then we'll stop and introduce others later, right? So we have Loctrician Layer here and Vuyolwetu Mlilo. They handle the whole of Pumula, big as it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Clayton. He'll be back. He'll be back again, of course, to give those introductions. I just had to interrupt him because our guest of honor, who is the representative of the German embassy, Christian Olfelk, has a very important message for you all. I'd like to direct you to our screens so you can hear that particular message.
This conference. I thoroughly regret that I cannot attend this event in person. I'm currently under quite some time pressure, as I learned from my headquarters a few weeks ago that I'll be called back to Berlin to start on a new posting already in May. I'm therefore quite busy winding up and therefore could not make time to come to Bulawayo. But thanks to modern technology, I'm able to at least deliver these brief introductory remarks. Thank you also to the people at Interlink for taking the initiative and organizing this conference. I'm very happy to see knowledgeable, competent German involvement in this hugely relevant topic of media literacy here in Zimbabwe. Mainly thanks to the internet, media and news are everywhere and omnipresent in our days. Our smartphones enable us to read the online versions of conventional newspapers, as well as news platforms anywhere and at any time. Also, news carried by social media is made available 24/7. These new media channels just add on to the traditional media like print, newspapers, radio and TV. To intellectually digest this abundance of news requires extra vigilance and extra efforts. As a matter of fact, in preparation of my upcoming move back to Germany, I've been cleaning out my bookshelves over the last few days and happened to find several interesting works, again, on this topic. In view of the overwhelming amount of news that we are confronted with, Rolf Dobelli, a Swiss author, has gone as far as writing a whole book on how to cope with this. His recommendation is in essence to stop reading the news, which is also the title of the book. Hans Rosling's book, Factfulness, which I also retrieved lately, can be read in a similar way. I, in principle, concur with these two authors, especially considering the quality of news that we're often confronted with. Reading the paper can be a huge waste of time. However, I guess it would be naive to think that one could escape the reality of the times we live in. To stop reading the news would be almost like sticking your head into the sand. Instead, I think it is the right way forward to improve media literacy and teach the skills of how to navigate the news landscape of our times. Therefore, I believe this conference is of huge relevance. The multiplication and diversification of news sources that I've referred to above are often blamed for the polarization of societies. Indeed, I believe even if diversification of opinions can be regarded as a positive aspect, the news landscape of our times requires extra efforts and vigilance, and it entrusts us with a great responsibility. The responsibility that we need to take serious when we form our opinions and make our choices based on the information that we're exposed to. Looking ahead in the Zimbabwean context, and with elections not too far down the road, accepting this responsibility and shouldering it in a diligent manner as responsible citizens seems ever so important. So instead of stop reading the news, the guiding question should probably be more like how real is real, which happens to be the title of another book by Paul Watzlawick, an Austrian-born professor of communications, which I also happened to find again when I started emptying my bookshelves these recent days. I'll leave it at that. I do not want to continue boring you with the content of my bookshelves. I've taken up of the time that you would be better off spending in expert discussions instead of listening to opening remarks by a layman. I wish you fruitful discussions and all the best for the continuation of the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Christian for that special message. And of course, he was highlighting the core aim of this project, which is to equip information users to access credible sources, to competently use social media, and to participate in decision making, as well as protecting our data. I'd like to invite Clayton Mario once again to come and introduce the hubs. This time I will not interrupt him.
Thank you. Right. Bese siye eCountry Park sayem ganweni sagcina ngephumula. Right. Now we have Luveve and Kwabalanda hub. Right. We have Melinda Ncube here and the tall gentleman at the back. Andile Kumalo. Thank you. Right, we also have Nkulumane. So with Nkulumane, we have Utariro Kurure. You will see here the late in dreadlocks. We also have Blessed Makaya. Iwawa Peti Nkulumane, Chabalala, Sizinda, it's quite a big area there, and they are well known actually. And we also have another hub in Mpopoma. Aha. We have Utawanda Mkoma, lo nonhlanhla Mabiwa, ibaba sibambele Mpopoma. Siyabonga. Right, sesiya ku province eqakatheke kakhulu eMat South. Right. eMat South sile stairs. Ngicela be stairs basukume. Right. Stairs, if you don't know where it is, it's in Mchabezi area. Abayibiza bethi yiWilonke. Lami ngikhulenza kuthiwa yiWilonke until I saw somewhere where it was written. It's actually Wenlock. So you know we play around with these words. So we have uReason Moyo, lo ntombi futhi Ncube. Siyabonga. Then Silenyanden, Enyanden. Enyanden is lo Aibongwe Swindi, lo Mesindlovu. Siyabonga. Then Susuka Enyanden, siloku sise Gwanda, the capital of the province, very important. Silentepe. Ntepe. Right, Nkale Muvangale or Patience Machazi, she's from Manama areas. Then Silo Primrose Clow. Primrose Clow is from Nkwali. And one thing about Primrose Clow is that she speaks Isindebele, she speaks Chivenda, she speaks Sesotho, she speaks English. Dynamic, eh? Sebo. Sile plum tree. Plum tree. Slow handsome. He's from Plum Tree. The other trainer will be joining us. She's called Tatela Dube. She's a Mbona later. Siyabonga handsome. Then Sile in Caesar as well. In Caesar. In Caesar, Silo Mason Dube, lo Promise Dube. Right, Nespo. Tricky to say Isbong as I see someone to know mom. I was some chat to say Okay. Is that all? Did I leave any other hub in Mat South? No, that's all of us. Matobo. How could I forget? Isn't Tabin? Galawe Matopo Basum. Right. Silo Constantine Pofu, Lo Geraldine Swanda, Ibaba Spambele, Imatopo, Mapisa, Yonke Leanda, Siabong. So these are the hubs that we are working with now. We'll be going on to Mat North, Ngome, June, Gusia Pambili. So in Mat North, I wouldn't want to introduce them now before they do our training, before they do the training. So when they start, that's when perhaps they'll get known by everyone. But just briefly, in Mat North, we'll have Vic Falls, we'll have Wange, we'll have Dete, we'll also have Cholocho, we'll have Lupane, and Nyati. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Clayton, once again, and special thank you to all the leaders of the hubs. We look forward to seeing the work that you guys will be taking part in. But before we move forward with our program, there is a car blocking a driveway. They've been asked to move number plate AFF7276. AFF7276, if you could kindly go outside and move your vehicle. Nonetheless, Okay, for me, this is a moment I've been waiting for. I mean, like, as a journalist student, whether you're a citizen journalist or a journalist, I'm sure we have all heard the name Dan Gilmore at some point in our lives. Of course, he's an internet media and information expert who's joining us live from the United States of America. And this is, I'm especially, you know, all right, so he is about to join us. As you know, that there's a huge time difference, but then nonetheless, he's about to join us as well. And just a reminder of what you can expect as we go about with our day. We will be, like I mentioned, Dan Gilmore will be coming through to share with us on his expertise in internet media and information. And then, of course, during the second half of our day-to-day, we'll be tracing the dynamics of misinformation and disinformation in Zimbabwe. And of course, I'll be prepared by Dr. Mpati Sindlovu. There will be a question and answer session, very important. And then, of course, we'll be combating misinformation, the agenda for civil society with O.F. Ingube. That's at 11:15. Question and answer segment, and then combating cyberbullying with Lord Tricia and Ulanga, and then as well another question and answer session. So like I was highlighting with you today is a very important day. This project is brought to you by the Center for Innovation and Technology CITE, as well as Interlink Academy that aims to empower people in this region with essential media literacy skills. So as I was reading about media literacy, it's actually quite amazing to think that almost 60% of the globe is connected to the internet. So imagine when someone else is online and they're posting stuff. Someone's always posting information, and there's a ton of disinformation going around on social media, and it's not just in print, it's also pictures, it is also videos and the likes. And it's important for us as individuals, as people, to know, when I get a WhatsApp message, is it really true? Is it not true? How can I decipher whether it is true or not? And to make sure that there's no panic and there's no violence that erupts from those particular images. And this is a very important conference, as well as we get to learn about how to access credible sources, as well as competently use social media, participate in decision making, and essentially protect our data. So earlier on, I'd asked you guys, Uguti, do you know when the Global Week for Media Information Literacy? Oh, yes. This is Googled. When is it? Yes, 24th to the 31st of October. So it's an entire week where information and literacy is covered throughout the year. And do you know when the actual day is? Does anyone know? Did you Google the date? No, it's still fine. Your prize will come. I'll come to you. Your name is? Nomkhele, I'll be with you. Don't worry, I'll give you your prize there. And we're just waiting for, of course, Dan Gilmore to join us and to let us know, Uti, what will be happening and the likes. So while we're at it, ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder, Uti, today, this project will aim to make sure that we know how to check document authenticity, to check source intentions, and to check relevance and consistency throughout our work. I don't know how many minutes we have to connect. All right, so for now, I'll just ask the DJ to play for us just a song just to mellow us out while we wait for Dan Gilmore to join us. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, once again, for taking your time to come through this morning. We really do appreciate you.
South Rwanda ndichikotama vhathu vachibvira zvauri social media ri khou ṱangana na zwithu zwinzhi huna uri muthu ari huna mushumo afha fhethu u wane dzi post dziri dzoṱhe u ṱuwe u ye afho fhethu u wane hu uri mafhungo heyo a si wone a u fhe direction muthu u ṱuwe u ye kha direction heyo u wane uri hoyu muthu u khou zwifhela mafhedziseloni u wana o no dzhena khomboni and then ri ṱangana na vhuṅwe vhuleme kha social media vhathu vha na u semana vha na u postana nga maipfi a u vhaisa vha na u postana u tshi wana muthu a tshi posta muṅwe muthu a songo ambara muthu u a posta muṅwe muthu a songo ambara zwine zwa ita uri muthu a fhedze a tshi khou ḓivhulaya kana muthu a fhedze a tshi khou vha na tshiṱirese a tshi khou dzhenelela mahalwani a tshi khou dzhenelela kha zwithu zwine a si zwavhuḓi nga nṱhani ha u sa farea zwavhuḓi nga zwithu zwa itea vhutshiloni hawe nga muṅwe muthu so a ri tone u zama u shumisa social media nga nḓila yo teaho uri ri songo vhaisana afha vhutshiloni so mayuthi a ri ṱanganiseni ṱhoho fhethu thihi ri farisane ri fhaṱe murafe wavhuḓi matshelo u swika na mmba matshelo
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So while we wait for Dan Gilma, I was thinking, Uti, obviously you guys have been having AMA innovation hubs and you've been learning a few things as you go along the way. Tinavanye Ofungai, we don't know what you've been learning. So I'd like to invite U Primrose Glow to come forward and to introduce herself in person, just to let us know, Uti, what happens in their information hubs, how many people they have in their teams, and what their goals are as time goes on. So Primrose, you may come forward.
Morning, people. Is it okay? On our trainings, trainer ngaphansi kwentepe eMatsouth eGwali. I-training yethu esiyenzile now is all about information to media literacy. For now, nginama groups ayi-3. And then we're teaching our youth about being media literate. So people were interested. They enjoyed the training here too. Sisebenze kahle, sifundisana.
Please give a round of applause to Primrose. I just got a prompt in there, which is so we know what everyone is doing. But nonetheless, I'd like to invite the director of CITE to introduce to us our guest of honor.
As Anjaila Ngubandogombizo director, confuses, gives the wrong impression. I think this is the time that we've been waiting for. Dan, good morning, if you can hear me. Good morning. Okay, I think we can sort of hear you. I think the guys here can just increase their volume. Okay, now we can hear you. Welcome to the Media and Information Literacy Conference in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. We are gathered here and everyone is looking forward to your speech. So I know it's about midnight where you are, so we don't want to keep you awake for a long time. I'll just say it's over to you for your presentation.
Are you waiting for me?
Hello, Dan. We can hear you. You can go ahead with your presentation.
I'm sorry, I'm unable to understand you. Your voice is not clear.
Hi, Dan. If you can hear us, you can go ahead with your presentation. We are ready for you.
I'm going to type into the, oh, go ahead, start now, yes. Okay. Can you enable screen sharing, please? Okay, good morning. I apologize. I have trouble hearing on your end, and I hope that you can see my screen. I'm showing some slides. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real honor to be with you. And I was asked if I could talk about why we need to have media literacy and information literacy. It's a very important topic. I could not be happier to know that you are working on it there. I think we have to do this around the world, and we have to do it better than we've ever done before, because the challenges are so great in the world of misinformation and poor information, and we need to work better for everyone's sake, or we're going to have lots of trouble in the future. So I'm going to just quickly go through a few points in my slides, and I'd like to leave lots of time for some questions.
Recording in progress.
If you have questions, I hope there's plenty of time, and if we don't get to them, then I'll be happy to answer them by email. So the information overload, as people call it, this is a real thing. We are being overwhelmed with all kinds of information from different sources. Some of it's true, a lot of it's true, some of it is not. And it's often not in context, and it's very much difficult, more difficult than in the past, to make sense of it all. And you'll forgive me, I'm using data here that are largely United States data and some Western data, but it's true in really most places, and I'm sure we are looking for things we can trust, and that's a very hard thing to find these days, is information we know for sure that we can trust. In the United States, it starts in younger ages, where people don't know and are unprepared for getting the kind of information that will be valid. And this has great consequences in all kinds of ways, politically, but also when we look at health issues. There has been a torrent, a large amount of information about COVID that has been wrong, sometimes deliberately, and that's very scary, because if you believe misinformation, that's bad enough if it's political. But if you believe it about things regarding your health, that can be worse than political. That can kill you. It's not a new phenomenon. We've had misinformation and public lying and propaganda for a long, long time, and that's nothing new about that. What's new really is this combination of factors where we pull together people who spread disinformation with techniques that are both political and technical and industrial scale. And it gives the people who want to spread bad information much more power to do so than they've had in the past. And it's going to get worse in many ways. There's a concept we call deep fakes, which is using video to put words in people's mouths, to have people say things or appear to say things that they never actually said. And this is an example from former President Obama, where with his cooperation, there was a video made of him saying things that he did not say. This is a big problem. It's going to get worse, and people are working very hard on it to see what we can do about it. Journalists, people who are producing information of quality, we hope, need to be better prepared than they have been for what to do about misinformation when they are being asked to share it, even if they don't know that it is that. And the problem with that is that while it's a good thing to have better journalism, we can't rely solely on journalists to get things right. We have to upgrade not just media supply, but also we have to think about demand. And when I say we have to upgrade our supply, I'm also saying we have to upgrade ourselves. We can't rest until we've made ourselves better at dealing with media. And media literacy is one way to upgrade ourselves. And I'm showing you here the definition of media literacy that a group in the United States that focuses on it has used. I think this is a good definition because it looks at both the consuming side of media, that is to read and to watch, to listen, and also the creating side of media, because we're not literate people unless we can create media too. And increasingly, with our devices that we have, electric devices, we are creating media whether we realize it or not, and that will only become more true in the future. We need to be literate at that too. Media literacy, I believe, fits into a category inside of a larger thing called information literacy, which is many things. And inside of media literacy, there's something people here call news literacy, which is a smaller part of media literacy. But all of these are very much related to each other, and we should think about them that way. When I say information literacy, it includes any number of aspects, and we need to understand information in general and deal with it better. We need to understand digital information in particular, media, of course, how the news works, how networks, that is, the internet, how does it work? How does technology work? If we're not literate about that, we're not very good. And part of being technologically literate is being able to be more secure and safe when we're using these things, to have our privacy and our security in online activities. We're generally not very good at that. And even the best experts at this will tell you that we are very vulnerable to people in a security sense. There are literacies of other kinds, and I won't go on and on, but all of them, I think, fall under a large information umbrella. As I said, I want to ask us to improve the demand, that is, improve us, our ability to consume and create information. I think it's crucial. If we don't do that, we're going to have problems. But it's easy for me to say, let's do this, but I have to ask who should do this? Who is responsible for making this happen? And more than that, if we think media literacy and information literacy is important, as I do, how do we make it scale? That is, how do we make it something that the largest number of people, starting as children and going right through their lives, how do we make it scale so that it's many, many, many people, most people have these skills and will use them and apply them? That's a very big question, and I'll have a couple of answers. I won't, I think there are others as well, but here's a couple. One is that education is crucial. What you're involved with there at some level is education, and I think it's wonderful to hear about the clubs that you're forming. I think it's a great idea. I want to hear more about that, because maybe that's something we could borrow from you back here in the United States. I think it's a fine idea to distribute things out as widely as possible through communities. One thing that we are doing in the educational world at my university is we're working on lots of ways to make this scale, and we have an online course that is free. At the end, I'll show you a web address where people can go to find more about it. We have a free online course that is for anybody who can read English, and we actually have a Spanish version of it. We don't have other languages yet, but we have strongly believed that this should be as widely distributed as possible, and that's one way we're trying to help. In teaching media literacy, which I do at the university, I think we should look at principles before we look at the tactics, how to make it happen. And these are some principles. I won't read through them because you can read, and you can, and again, I will make a copy of this slide deck available for anyone who wants it. But these are principles that I think are very valuable for being media literate as the consumers of media, the people who read and who watch and who listen and interact with media in various ways. But scaling, again, making this widely spread through society, it's not just teaching. It's not just educators, that is. I think another big role to play is that of the media themselves. And I think journalists should play a huge role in spreading the idea of media literacy and teaching their audiences how to be media literate. And there are a number of ways they can do that. We've worked with some journalism organizations, but they're not very good at doing this yet. We hope they will get better. They have a lot of other things to do, and we'd like to see television and advertising companies and other. When we talk about people creating media like journalists, we think there are principles there too that they need to bring into what they do to help people understand the world better. And I won't again read through these, but we think they're very important. A project that we did work on with journalists, one of several, was with a magazine called Science News. And we helped them in a way that I think was very successful, and they were very eager to do this. We think journalists can help teach media literacy by being transparent about what they do, explaining who they are, how they do the work, why they do the work, and to be very clear about what goes into journalism, because most people don't understand how hard journalism really is, and it would be good for them to get a better sense of it. That's one way media companies, media industry can be better at this. But when it comes to scale, the idea of getting this set of skills to the widest number of people, we don't think there's any other way to make it as super widespread than to get the technology industry involved, because they define what scale is at this point. Whether we like it or not, they have that power, and we do need their help. Something I strongly believe is that the tech companies should give their users, that is the social media companies particularly, give users better ways to handle their own information flows online. I would like to see Facebook and Twitter and all of the other ones, from Telegram, WhatsApp, you just name it, TikTok, give the users much more very direct and granular control over how the feed coming to them looks and what's in it. They don't do that for the most part. This is something we think is a major failing of the technology industry. But we're encouraging them to do more, and we hope they will. I need to say something about tech and about one company because I have personally many issues with Facebook about things that they do that I have not been a fan of. But they do understand the need for media literacy, and they supported Arizona State University in doing that online course. And I think we should talk about the good things that happen as well as the not so good things. We're trying to find other ways to get tech industry to pay more attention to this and to do more. And I'm optimistic that they will do things in the end. I don't want the tech companies to become the editors of the internet, which is what a lot of people are demanding. I think that's a terrible mistake. I want us, you and me, I want us to be the editors of our internet so that we can get the information as individuals and in our communities that we think is trustworthy and important, rather than having highly, highly powerful centralized companies decide for us. That strikes me as a dangerous thing. And people disagree with me on that, and I respect that, and we should have a big debate about it. But I want to say, above all, when we're looking at all of these issues and the need for media literacy and how to make it as widespread as we can possibly do it, that we really have to collaborate with each other. We have to work with each other across age groups, across industries. We have to get government involved. We have to get everybody involved at some level, or I fear that the people who want bad information to spread are going to prevail in what I think is one of the most important battles of our lifetimes. If we don't work together, we could be in very big trouble in the future. We're already in some trouble, but I think we have ways of working ourselves out of it. And again, if we want to get this done right, we have to work together, and there's just no way around that. I mentioned ways to get in touch with me and to see our course. There's the URL to that course. Again, I'm making a copy of this available to you. You don't have to write it down. But I hope very much that everyone in this room who is involved in this will think about ways that you can help each other do these things and to make media literacy core and central to the way you look at media and the way you deal with it. And when I say that, I also hope you'll let me know what you're doing, because I'm very interested in what people do around the world. There is great work going on in lots of places, and I think I learn more from people in other places than I learn typically from people in my own community. So tell me what you're doing and how it works, and maybe I can borrow some of your great ideas and apply them to the work I do. So I'm going to stop talking for a second, and I'm very eager to hear what your questions might be. And if perhaps they can go in the chat as well. So I'll stop here.
All right, thank you so much for that, Dan, and I hope we're all listening and that we have some questions. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask Dan Gilmore, please just raise your hand and I'll come through with the mic and then you can ask your question, everyone. Anyone? Ole Spindi? Don't be shy, guys. Anyone with a question? Kumenqale mina. Hey, peer pressure. All right, good morning, Dan. Can you hear me? Please nod your head if you can.
I'm sorry, I am not hearing you clearly.
All right. I think what we can do, since you can't hear us, I think the guys who are on the Zoom, they'll type the question for Dan over there, then Dan will know exactly what we're asking. So does anyone have a question before I go ahead with my question? No one? All right. All right.
I apologize, but your voice is very distorted, and I'm unable to. Maybe. Oh, great. Thank you.
All right. So my question is to Dan Gilmore: is how can we combat polarization of the media, particularly in a setup like Zimbabwe? How can we combat polarization of the media, particularly in a setup like Zimbabwe?
And you're going to type that?
Yes.
Oh, combat polarization. Yeah, that's a very good question, and I wish I had some easy answer to it. There is no easy answer to any of this, and that one's really difficult. If polarization, we have some polarized media in our country as well. And I don't see it getting any better. I think that there is, I think it's very important for journalists to tell the truth as best they can see it, and not to become partisan operatives for political interests or financial interests. But when I say that, it's very important that journalists don't cover things as neutral observers if one side of an argument is not telling the truth and the other is. And more than that, there are some issues, in my opinion, where journalists need to become visibly biased, and those include whether freedom of expression is allowed. If journalists won't defend freedom of expression, then no one will. If in my country's past, at its founding, and for a very long time, journalism did consist of very polarized entities where there was messaging or another. And I'm not sure that that was worse than we have now if journalists are going to publish things they know to be false. But polarization, I think, is a fact of our lives, and we need journalism that is relentless about serving the truth and serving the main cause I want journalism to serve is in a political way, I think, is the cause of democracy. I don't think we can have freedom of speech if we don't have basic freedoms that democracy brings to us. So I don't have a good answer to the question about combating polarization. Sometimes it's the right thing, but for journalism and for the public, telling what's true and telling it in context so that we understand better is the crucial thing. And we're going to have these battles, and I hope that we can do it in a way that where the battles don't include guns.
All All right, I'm sufficiently answered. So a gentleman sent me a question. He said, "Gala voice, kayangani ule flu." So his question was, empowering communities to be information savvy, or are we not blurring the lines between journalists and communities? So his question is, empowering communities to be information savvy, are we not blurring the lines between journalists and communities?
I've
Empowering
heard the word
communities.
community a lot, but I didn't quite understand the question.
The question is, Dan,
If
empowering,
you can put it into the chat, I really would be better able
empowering
to answer.
communities to be information savvy, are we not blurring the lines between journalists and communities?
Yes. Yes, we are, and I think that's a good idea. I think that journalism can be done, parts of journalism anyway, can be done by everybody, and I think should be. I don't think we should have enclosed role in our society. I think journalism is a much broader thing than what people we call journalists do. And not every community can support people can pay people to do journalism. There's not enough money to do that. And I think we have a role as citizens and members of communities to help each other know what's going on. I do believe strongly in the principles of journalism and that we should apply them to the way we help each other know what's happening in our communities. But I think that the lines are already blurred and have been getting more so for a long time. So my belief is that since anyone can create media, part of this media literacy is to help people create media with integrity when they want their community to be better informed about what's happening. So rather than worry about the lines blurring, I think we should take advantage of the idea that we can all be creators of media if we do it in a good and honest way, that we will all be better informed in the end. That's not, again, this is not an easy thing to do, but I don't see an alternative, and I hope that we can work on that together.
All right, another question from a guest here. Someone asks, Uguti, ordinary citizens themselves can be originators of fake news or misinformation. Enacting laws to safeguard this, is this the best way to go? Ordinary citizens themselves can be originators of fake news or misinformation. Enacting laws to safeguard this, is this the best way to go? Ordinary citizens themselves can be originators of fake news or misinformation. Enacting laws to safeguard this, is this the best way to go?
I'm going to wait to see the question in the chat, so I'm sure that I understand it correctly. It's quite true that that you and I, who are not journalists but members of communities, can use these tools to create misinformation. That's absolutely true. And I think what your media literacy work involves is helping people, first of all, understand why that's a bad idea not to do that, because it's bad for all of us as a public, but in the end, it's bad for them. And we can start with the place where consuming media and creating media kind of come together, and that's in sharing media. When we share things online, we have a responsibility to think about it before we share something and not share things that we don't know to be true. One way that misinformation spreads is people say, that sounds really, pick a word, that sounds great, that sounds awful, that sounds something, and they just click a button and off it goes to their friends. We need people to think about it first, and if they don't have if they're not certain, to not share it. That's the first thing. But, and when people are creating media and posting it, again, I can't force people to be honest in how they talk. And I come from a culture where we think that the freedom of expression is extremely important, even when people abuse that we tend to think that the correct thing to do is to explain why there's better information. So from my perspective, laws that regulate speech are full of difficulties. And I'm not in favor of laws that regulate speech, except in some very narrow circumstances. Again, understand that I come from the American tradition of very high levels of free speech and tolerance for things that some other cultures do not tolerate. But I think that I'm going to stay with that because I don't think the alternative is better. I don't think government regulation of what we can say and do and collaborate together on is a good idea. And I don't think that governments telling social media companies to regulate us is a good idea either.
All right, so another question that has come through is big tech companies are being asked to moderate their content more. Can this possibly take away from the citizens' voices?
The big problem we have, I think that the bigger the tech company is, the more power it has. And when we ask them to regulate to moderate more, I think it's, I'll put it away in a different way. If I invite someone into my home and they misbehave in my home, I'm going to ask them to leave. And technology companies that host other people's speech have every right to have rules about what's acceptable and what's not, and they all have rules. And the issue is that it's one of the issues. It's impossible to moderate at the kind of scale that they have. When billions and billions of messages are being posted every day at these companies, they don't have the ability to moderate everything that comes across there, and the technological ways that they moderate fail a lot. So doing this is, I believe, impossible in a way that will be satisfactory to everyone or even a majority. And I think it has the unintended consequence at times of reducing completely legitimate speech and to remove completely legitimate speech from public circulation. These companies are so big that they have so much power to decide what's going to be heard as opposed to what's going to be said. That strikes me as dangerous. I think we need to find ways for people to speak freely and to join communities where if they choose, there's very heavy moderation, but less so if they don't want to. What I'm trying to say here is that when people say to the tech industry, you have to do something about all this terrible stuff, and I hear myself saying that at times, the question you have to ask is, well, what exactly do you want them to do? Do you want them to be the editors of the internet? I don't. And I want us to be the editors, and I want them to help us do that. When I say that, I recognize that some bad things are going to be available and pushed around and sent to people. But I'd rather have a broad ability to speak than censorship by giant companies that's practically the size of governments or even bigger.
All right, a special thank you to Dan Gomo for taking his time this morning to come out. So if you guys could just wave so that you can see you. I'm sure you can see us on our screens and the likes and just say thank you, halala, halala. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
No,
thank you. It's an honor to be with you. It's truly an honor.
All right, thank you so much to Dan Gomo for coming through this morning to share his knowledge on the internet, media, and information. As you know, he's based in the United States, and he was still up after midnight, and he took his time this morning to be with us and just to highlight some key issues there on the internet, media, and information. And I think he highlighted a very key point that, you know, journalism essentially is dynamic, and it has changed. No longer about the journalists who sit in the office whether from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m., but it's about all the individuals around us, particularly now with the advent of the internet. You find witty stories go online all the time, but then it's up to us as journalists, as citizens, to come through together and to debunk what are the real stories, what are the fake stories, what can we learn from, you know, this access that we have to the internet. I don't know if anyone has any comments that they'd like to share on what they've learned so far this morning. I know you don't want to ask questions, but now at least let's just have a conversation essentially on what we learned this morning before we break for tea at 10 o'clock. So just essentially like 5 minutes. So as I'm trainers, anything from, oh, Dan, is there something that you're going to take back home to educate the others back at home? Anyone? I don't want to name names. I was given a list of Amavis, so there's a hand there. Thank you so much.
I think the power of collaboration, because most of us, for us to keep giving wrong information, is because we always think that what I say, it's always the best. And then that gives us the power to give wrong information, because we always tell ourselves that with this that I'm doing, because I learned for this, I went to this university, A, B, C, and D, but the more we collaborate, the more we come with more ideas and getting to correct each other in this media hemisphere. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You highlighted there that we all learn different things from where we come, so always think that I am always right. I saw someone clapping. Do you want to contribute as well about anything that you learned today? Anyone? Alifundanga madance? Hey. Anyone, guys? What have we learned? All right. I think it's the weather. It's not your fault. All right. I think now the time is 5 minutes to 10. All right, guys, anyone wants to contribute about anything that they've learned this morning? No one? All right, it's 5 minutes before our tea time. I'm sure we can go outside. Seriously, stretch up for now, but thank you so much for coming through for the first session. And remember that the next session starts at exactly 10:30, so make sure that we're back in here by exactly 10:30. We can go outside and essentially stretch for now. And of course, network as well. I think it's very important. Let us take the opportunity to network. Let's not hang around with each other, but someone new, someone different, and let's learn from each other as well. Oh, and one more reminder, please, please, please. As you go out to your social medias, please do share this event on your social media. I was sent the link by our beautiful Lungile, who heads our social media at CITE. So please do go ahead and tag at CITE ZW, as well as All right, so the hashtag is MIL in Matabeleland Conference and Asake, and then you tag CITE ZW on all your social media platforms.